And now we will sing our Kunda Yiyam. It's a spirit prayer. Yaranu. White man came with ships and landed on our shores. With them, they brought death and destruction. No more crying now. They are dead and gone. We will never forget. Our people fought back. Many people lost their lives. Many people have died. We will never forget. Thank you.
Lord. You want the Lord? You're going to say ye. Okay, I'm asking if you're good, you say ye. Okay, you want the Lord? Don't say not, got nothing, you're not good, but yeah, we all good. Look, we've been doing frontier wars now for a number of years, and just for people who actually first time here with us today, this symbol represents the cockatoo feather. They're a very well-known ceremonial site at Goldsboro Valley. Our young men were getting initiated, and at that particular site, young men and women were actually killed at the first time that Europeans came here. So a lot of sites, and if you look outside, actually represents a lot of those massacres that have happened here. And today we come together to remember. And I know a lot of people have said to us, you need to forget it and get over it. But tomorrow we will be asked to remember those who had fallen at wars from someone else's country, not here. Today we pay respects to those who have fallen here in this country, on Yitinji country, but also those who have fallen on my mother's country, Konganji country, also those who have fallen on Jabagai country, those that have fallen on my grandmother's country, Yalanji country, those who have fallen on my dad's mom's side, Gimuy country, up around Cooktown, Hopewell, Starkey, that area. But all of those who have fallen on Nudgin country, up on the tableland, Malanda, Mamawanji people who have fallen down in Innisfail, all of those that have fallen on Barbaram country, just west of African tablelands. And if you go a little bit more west, southwest from the African tablelands, the Gimuy people, those who have fallen fighting for country. So today we remember those, and if we are asked to get over it, then the rest of Australia should be asked to get over tomorrow's ceremony in a reflection to those that have fallen in regards to the Anzac. And it's not to forget about those people, because a number of our families have fought in those wars. A number of our families have placed themselves in a situation where they went to war fighting for this country on another man's country, and some of them never returned. So, and one well-known one was the Boer War, where a number of family members from Yitinji country were actually taken over to be trackers, because a number of Australians got lost in Africa during the Boer War. But they never returned. And the reason they never returned was, in Australia we had the policy, the White Australia policy. So they were not allowed to come back into the country because they were black. So when we remember today, and to our elders, and I know a lot of people think that's a long time ago. But I can tell you that it's not a long time ago. Cairns City has only been here for 147 years. So I need you to think about that. 147 years Cairns City has been here. 147 years ago. So when we put, my big sisters there, Elaine and Tessa, that's half their lifetime. And I kind of put it in perspective in the sense that if, my auntie, who was born at a hospital camp in front of the hospital here in Cairns, she passed away a couple of weeks ago, and she was 96. So when we start putting all of that in perspective, and we do the maths, that's not too long ago. The other part of that history is my dad's eldest sister, if she was alive today, she'd be 120 years old. So things that have happened here are within our family's lifetime. My dad's father, I've got a little gremlin talk I'm going to sing you. But, I'll just stand away a little bit because I think it's just reverberating. My grandfather walked about on this country before any Europeans arrived here. So when you put that in perspective, you kind of look at how long was it. I got Uncle Peter here, whose father was the last man initiated at the Cairns airport in 1910. His father, so Uncle's grandfather, my great-grandfather, he was one of the senior lawmen that was part of that ceremony. And when he was a young fella, he had his toe shot off. Hang on. And they chased our family to what we know as Jankar. Everybody else knows that Red Lynch. So within those periods of time, a lot of our family have been shot out. And because we were not classified as humans, we were classified as flora and fauna. And we still are, if you look at the Constitution. And people may wonder whether you vote yes or vote no. That'll be up to everybody else to decide about that. But I just want to bring this to the equation. Who signs a form here? And every form that you look at, you get to the end of the page, and it has two little tick boxes, and it says these two words. Are you Aboriginal? Are you Torres Strait Islander? Tick the box. It doesn't say, are you English Australian? Are you Chinese Australian? Are you Irish Australian? But it does ask, are you Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander? And if we are all citizens, why should those two tick boxes be there? We were only counted, but we're still not classified as citizens. So some of the families who are here would probably know when their grandmothers and grandfathers carried a permit to allow them to come into Cairns, Hooktown, all those places. Just so you can look around here, I'll ask people whose mothers, fathers, grandparents had a permit just to come into a city. So if you look around, you will see a number of us got our hands up. Wharf 1, when we lived on my mum's country, Konganji country, we weren't allowed to come here to where the Wharf 1 was, where it's been knocked down now, unless we had a permit to come on to my dad's country. It's a funny thing, but my grandmother, my dad's mum, and my mum's mum were removed off country up around the Woodjall Hookdown area, and quite a few massacres happened around places called Starkey, Battle Camp, all of these places when you go up to that way. Some of them resemble names of events that have happened. Down here, if you just go past Warree, we have Skeleton Creek, where a number of our people, heads were put on stakes. I don't know anybody in this time responsible for those things that have happened, but if you do not acknowledge or actually think about those events that have happened so that we can change the future for the next generation, teach it in our schools so people will remember, lest we forget. You'll hear this tomorrow, lest we forget, which is we should always remember those who have fallen. And today, we will remember those that have fallen. And those families who are still here with us today, to keep that fire burning, to keep that smoke, letting everybody know, and cleansing our spirit, cleansing everyone else's spirit, so we can come together to remember, not to forget. I like to say there's two history in Australia. One which is a more modern history, and the other which is a more ancient history. But when those two histories collided at a time that we, as the indigenous people, Yitinji, Yitinji, Gimuy, Konganji, Jabagai, Najan, Mamo, Jirabao, Pablo, we still feel the pain, but it's good to see everyone here today coming together as a people, as a nation, to remember those that have fallen at that particular time in our history in Australia. Many countries have an ancient history. The British have an ancient history. The Romans have an ancient history. The Greeks have an ancient history. We in Australia tend to forget about our ancient history. There's a time for change. And I think that change should happen now, because we can't keep living a lie when we know the truth. So I just would like to say thank you for being here today and being a part of this ceremony and being a part of listening and learning. I might ask Brother Danny if he wants to come up and say something from Yitinji side about events that have happened up on his country. So yeah, can we give a hand to Danny O'Shea?
We're not supposed to speak our language on another man's country. It's all right if I speak a little bit Yitinji or Yitinji. Ngay ngô với Yitinji bằng một cái dòng ở over the water. Most white people are the Gobi over the water Yitinji from Mosman area. What Caesar's been saying about those events that happened on Yitinji country, on all of the different groups here. I don't think anybody was spared, and certainly our Jaungara, our Gokuyalanji Jaungara, they weren't spared from it either. And there's sites there, and I don't want to speak too harshly, but there's sites there that we know where those events took place. We know where our people ran away from those rifles, where they hid it on Munyuri. Munyuri means sandfly, but it's the name of an island in the middle of Dixon's Inlet, where Jaungara and Arimungu, our ancestors, swam across Dixon's Inlet, had to overnight on that thick mangrove island to escape the gunfire, and then up to Mossman Gorge, where everybody likes to visit now. So all those things are part of our memory, part of our understanding, and it's not to live there in the past. We can't continue to live there. We need to build a future together. The people, or a whole group of Indigenous people from all over Australia, Yitinji people were there, Torres Strait Island people were there, people from Western Australia, New South Wales, Victoria, everywhere. They joined together at Uluru in 2017 and came up with an invitation to Australia. An invitation to walk with us, to understand the hurt of the past, but also to understand the continuing effects of those events that happened not so long ago, as Steve pointed out. So we're asking the people to walk with us, to come with us, to overcome that history of deprivation. Seth speaks of his people being taken away, but that's for all of us. They took away relations to all of us. My granddad, I suppose he was a bit Seth's granddad over there at Yarrabah. My grandmother, they were married there. They've taken from their families when they were young children. Their first child, my eldest uncle, he was born there. But granddad and grandma, they got exempted from the Aboriginal Protection Act, and they were able to go back onto Yitinji country. But it was terrible the way in which people were treated. They looked at their fellow human beings as something less than what they were. And we all know what humanity is. We can look at everybody today. You can look at the scholars and the athletes and all of those people today. It doesn't matter what colour they are, what race they are, where they come from. We're all equal, each and every one of us. We have to walk together. I'm asking you to support that, walk with us, and vote yes for the voice, because it's not just yes. The outcome from Uluru was voice, treaty, truth. The state government has embarked on that journey of developing treaty with First Nations people. We cannot go without it, and we have to tell the truth of our past. That, when we understand that truth, it can bring us together. It's not about taking us apart, it's about walking together. I'd like to just join with us. Thank you, and thanks, Steve, for voting.
Just looking at this wall here, around here, I can always remember my mother. She had 5 children, and we were only allowed to visit our relatives over at Yarrabah. We went by barge from here. My mother had to pack a big port, was so heavy with clothes, and also we had food. We were only allowed to visit Christmas and Easter. Telling all my stories have always been passed down to every one of my children. We all have our tribal names today, every one of them, right down to the 2-year-old. And they know our history of what happened here, what our parents went through. My father was a Warrangaba man, and he was sent from there over to Yarrabah. This is where he met my mother. But faced a lot of racism, a lot of prejudice, but it made me grow stronger. To face up. Our people used to look at the ground and don't look up. These days, we look up and right into the eye. We don't look down anymore.
I've been trained in journalism too, and I've got to be careful how I talk. But firstly, I'd just like to say good and uga, which in any language means good evening, good night, and nundu bilan garan yundu yidi yapande. Hello and welcome you all to our Yitinji country, Gimuy Walla Yitinji. So look, all the words, the main words, have already been spoken and said, and I'm probably just going to reiterate some of those. But for me, I also try to always look at the big picture of what's actually happening. You know, we've heard from what's happened in the 1800s, 1876s and onwards. We know the whole history coming from that point right to where we are today. One of our most valuable commodity in this world, doesn't matter whether you're a pauper, doesn't matter whether you're the richest man in this world, it's something that Aboriginal people always understood, and that's time. Time. Time is not to be wasted. Time is such an important commodity. So in our life, right from the history to where we are now, you reflect back on those times, whether those times were eventful, whether those times were fateful, whether those times were about harmony, about peace. I don't think so. But if you come back and think about us Aboriginal people, the last oldest living civilization on this planet. Not my words, words of scholars and professors and scientists. They say the same words. They talk about Aboriginal people, moyo, stupid, lazy, alcoholics, drug addicts, can't work. But I tell you, that's totally wrong. Very, very wrong. And those words, they should never have been reiterated or never said again. Because see, in our culture, we've always had this word called governance. I worked in many, many Cape York communities. I worked with many other people. And one of the things I always talk about in governance is we practice that thing every other day. Our elders, our chief, our communities, we've been able to run by governance. You see, my totem, Bulia, land and sea eagle. That's part of the dreaming, part of the law story right around Australia. That word, Bulia, for me, serves the purpose of where we need to be going in this world right here today. Because we have law. We do welcoming in the law year. In the last few years now, people don't even really recognise that or understand it. But we're standing in front of our leading lawyers, our judges, I should say, and we're showing respect of who we are. Yeah, it's a small step towards understanding who we are, but that's what I'm about, and my countrymen are about that. We all work tirelessly in this community to try to build the building blocks behind closed doors sometimes, or out in the streets, in organisations, doing welcome to country. That welcome to country is one of the most important and significant pieces of our history that opens up the best dialogue, doesn't matter which country you come from. Auntie said it before, it's about healing. It's about chasing away the bad spirit. It's about creating a safe, culturally safe place where man and woman can sit down and have that conversation. Have this truth-telling like we're doing here today. This thing's got to go out on NITV, and I'd like to say a big thank you for NITV and all our elders around Australia. Because at some point in time, whether it's through The Voice or whether it's through some other process, truth-telling, treaty, we have to get to the point. We have to get to the point of making sure that we unite. And the only way we're going to keep united is this process of coming together, cultural safe. I'm working in schools now for a long time, in health for a long time, in reference to cultural navigation, in reference to advisory, in reference to education, awareness, induction. See, a lot of people really need to understand what it means. What does welcome to country mean? What does smoking mean? What does acknowledgement mean? These are very significant, very strong practices that we've been maintaining for thousands upon thousands of years. So here we are today, we're celebrating this situation of Anzac. We're celebrating all our soldiers and men and women who have fought for this country. Yes, they fought and they died for this country. But we were amongst that too. Our grandparents, our grannies, our aunties, our uncles, our nieces, our nephews, they're signed up today in all the Army, Navy, Air Force. They're willing to give up too. But that situation, like Brother been saying, Yaba been saying, when our people went over to fight, they weren't entitled. When they came back, they had a closed door. Those who did come back, they never got the recognition. They weren't given an opportunity to get a house or a better lifestyle. No, it was still under the Act, that same Opium Act, flora and fauna. Like Brother said there, you know, our families, we walk that same storyline. We still see that discreetly happening today in this world that we live in here, in Gimuy here. When you wear the skin, when you talk this way, when people know, oh, that's that Gimuy fella there, yeah, we know about him. It might be nice to your face, but behind closed doors, it's a whole different ballgame. That's got to stop. Uncle said it before, equity, equality, that's what we deserve. That's why our families fought for this country too. And that's why when we think about this main theme here today, frontier wars, I'm probably one of the first people in Cairns here right now is delivering this into school and delivering it into a way where teachers are going to actually able to see the cultural capabilities, intelligence, so they can wake up and realise who those picking in, who them children, who are they talking to understand that whole process around dispossession, all the situations of social, emotional well-being that's affecting our children and our families today. We weren't born to want to come into this society and have this type of lifestyle. Everyone is born into this world innocent. You don't have any process of decision making when you come into this world, apart from that mujam, that mother, or that auntie, or that granny that's going to support you and help you, bring you in. My mother was born at Gimuy there. You know when there? White Rock Mountain, down the bottom of mountain there. No hospital, no doctor. She was born there. And my going on 7th generation, my family, been there. That's my country. That's my homeland. Big brother here can testify for that. We've been there for a long time. Yes, we had to go through, my parents go through that same permit. But you know how? They had to work like slaves, indentured. Work. That's what they always taught. You don't work, then look out. So people, I might talk a bit strong, I might talk maybe, might sound a bit angry in my voice, but in fact, my heart is crying inside here while I'm talking. I might be strong, but in my heart, because I think about my mujam, my mother, my granny, they all been through the same thing. My big grandfather, his name was taken away from him. He was a strong warrior. They call him Gimuy. What for? His name's not Gimuy. Gimuy of Yitinji. That's what they've been calling. So he had to walk that same life of oppression, dispossession, all the same things that we all family connected here, right throughout Australia, the same thing. So getting back to this frontiers, wars, all I can say, for all our countrymen, all around Australia, we have to always have hope, and we always have to have belief. Because when you have hope and belief, you will overcome many, many things. And we have to do that. You know why? Because our children need us to be able to show that strength, to show that ability, for us to stand up here and educate them, share with them, to get them back straight and strong. We got too much problems created from not our own fault. We never had all this business happening with us in our lifestyle. We were strong, healthy. You know, we could do anything. Walk about all our maize, all our food, all here. This whole Cairns region, it was a sanctuary. It was a heaven on earth for our people. And you know what? The worst part about it all? We prepared to share. We were always prepared to share. No matter they would come and take this water here, take it, go for Green Island, and then they turn it what into? Battle camp. Because nobody wanted to ask Goodway for that water. They just want to come and take it. And when our countrymen say, look, that water got very significant story, but they don't understand that story. They only understand that musket. And that's what happened. Cairns wasn't named Cairns. It was named a number of names. One of them was Battle Camp. Why Battle Camp? Because that's what it turned into. Our people had to become fugitives, had to become people to learn how to survive on their own country when they really wanted just to share. So anyway, I want to leave it at that, but I just want to say big blessings to everybody here, all to our elders. Stay strong. We love yous all. We need yous. And as a younger person coming up, my dad, he turned 90 now, 90 years old. So when Brother talk about that timeline, he definitely understands what 90 years old means, but that's another story. So thank you to the organisers, thank you to everybody. Garu.
My name is Henrietta. My Yitinji name is Bukgal, which is the lawyer vine. This is the land of the Gimuy Yitinji people, the land of my father, Quiblum Henrik Formal, the land of my grandfather, Ngayi Quiblum Ted Formal, and the land of my great-grandfather, Yimuy, a great warrior, a great Nalan of our people. He was given a king plate when the colonisers arrived to express the fact that he was one of our leaders. This is the land of my great-great-grandfathers, Yitinji and Mandajupa. This is the lineage which I come down, the lineage which connects me to the land we call Gimuy. We are the Gimuy Walbara Yitinji people. We have 7 clans. Gimuy Walbara Yitinji people control and look after the land to the north of us, Guju, which is the Barren River. The landscape which resembles the scorpion is Bundajambunji near the Barren, and as you weave in and out through the landscape to the west of us, you come to a white peak, Bundamundabunji. Gives us our laws and our customs that tells us the history of the rising of the sea level and the formation of the Great Barrier Reef just over 10,000 years ago. As the mountain weaves through Yinti, Bundajarragan, the Jarragan's Nest, to the east, Burrawalna, the sacred women's site, and the site in which our nation of the Gimuy Walbara Yitinji people was born. And the area that we sit in today is called Gimuy. We are the Gimuy Walbara Yitinji people. 141 years ago was when the settlers came to our land. 141 years ago, they came not to visit, they came to stay. It was during this period many of my people were massacred. Many of the women and children were massacred. Many of our women were raped. It is the time when the Gimuy Walbara Yitinji people country was totally destroyed. Many of our people today continue to tell the history. It is today that we want to recognise our elders, our ancestors, who have fought in those frontier wars and tell about the massacres that had taken place. There are two known stories about the massacre which had taken place up from the inlet. As the settlers moved into the White Rock and Edmonton area, they continued to slaughter our people. It is Skeleton Creek that is known for the slaughter that had taken place. Heads of our ancestors were hung on poles during this frontier war. Another time was when my grandfather, Charlie Hyde, had told Tyndale of what had happened to him as a boy. It was during further development of settlement in the Cairns area when he was living with his mother and his father, my great-great-grandfather, Yitinji, and his wife, Gimuy. Papa Charlie tells of the horror of that massacre that had taken place when he was shot in the foot and his toes were removed. His father went back to find him in the scrubs where his mother had dropped him. In 1935, he told Tyndale of what had happened to him as a child. This is one account of the history of the massacres where many of our people were slaughtered and died. Another time that a young boy by the name of Lani Mulgrave Blair, near the Mulgrave River, when he was taken away from his mother, ripped away from his mother's bosom, when his tribe were massacred. He was taken away to Melbourne. So here we have the frontier war and the damage of a child, a baby, who's taken away from his people. He grew up in Melbourne. He got the best education any child would want. He became an architect, probably one of the first Aboriginal persons to become an architect. He died at the age of 18 years old, trying to save a family friend. He never did return to his country, nor did his people know that he existed until recently, when we were told about the history of what had happened to him. And there are many more of these kind of stories of the frontier war and children being taken away because their people were massacred. And it's during this time that we need to now remember these people. We need to accept the dark history of this country. For us to move on as a nation, we must accept the truth of what had happened on this land. We cannot deal with reconciliation without the truth. And the frontier war is part of that dark history and the truth of what had happened in this land.